My name is JT Van Zant. I'm a fly fishing guide on the Gulf Coast of Texas. Being on the water has always been the secret to unlocking my soul. I just feel like I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing in this life. And that feeling inspires deep thought and conversations with my clients, who are all of varied backgrounds. I truly enjoy sharing perspective on the human experience with folks I take fishing. Drifting, a YETI Presents podcast, was created with the goal of capturing those candid conversations with people who inspire me and sharing them with an audience that has the same sort of restlessness and curiosity that I do. I have found that the best way to provide wisdom and hope for future generations is to learn from the folks that have blazed the trail before us and have made tough decisions in the pursuit of living an extraordinary life. I hope you enjoy, and thanks for listening to Drifting. I was going over to Maui to interview Lauren Spalding, the Olympic paddler. I had heard about her dad, Mike, and I was excited to meet him too. Mike has swam all the channels between the Hawaiian Islands. He almost drowned Eddie Vedder one time, and he's the only guy to be bitten by a cookiecutter shark. I pull into the family compound, and Mike insisted that I stay. The Spalding family embodies the aloha spirit. Mike told me stories of high-sea adventure, stories of potential risk and things going terribly wrong, capsizing his canoe off the shore of Lanai with his 3-year-old daughter Lauren at the time, how he regretted that decision. He also confirmed the Eddie Vedder story, but added that it was impossible to turn back for him. Mike Spalding is notorious in the most epic way. He's the most excited and inviting man I've ever met. If you ever go on a trip with Mike, you better be able to save yourself. Thanks for having us, Mike, to this amazing property of yours, a family compound here. It's a beautiful place.
JT, it's great to be hanging out with you guys because I can just see it in your eyes that you guys are all crazy, like myself. So we're in the same tribe. And I think what we used to call ourselves when we would do these canoe trips, we'd do sailing canoe trips, unescorted, and we go all over the Hawaiian Islands. And Uncle Jeff Johnson, Jack's father, was one of my cohorts in crime. And, you know, I remember coming into the beach at Punaluu. And we come sailing in, kind of catch a wave, and we've got fish on board, and we've got our fishing gear and our dive gear. And this lady comes up and he says, "Can we join you guys? What's your club?" And we said, "We're the Fun Hogs." You know, and from then on, that was our kind of motto. And
what year would have that been?
That would have been about 85. So basically, our philosophy was that we live in one of the most beautiful places in the world. We've got this warm ocean, and it's tricky. So there's not that many people out doing it. I mean, there's weather considerations, there's currents, there's big fish. And so we started to understand our landscape, firstly, by kayaking. I kayaked around every island, and I didn't finish a piece of the big island, Hilo to Waipio, and I didn't finish a piece on Oahu. But other than that, Nihao, Kaho'olawe, every Maui, Big Island, we circumnavigated these islands by kayak. And kayak is very intimate. I mean, only you would know that more than anybody, JT, is that you're able to go into the smallest areas, shallowest little bays where the Hawaiians would go in by canoe. And so by doing that, we got an extensive up-close knowledge of the coastal of Hawaii. And so, we would make notes on our charts and stuff. And so as we did that, we would drag our kayaks every trip. We do a lot of underwater exploration, dragging our kayaks, going downwind and coming into different bays and camping. And we would actually later on use that knowledge to take our Hawaiian sailing canoe on these epic trips. But we would know where to go. We would know where you could anchor, where you could bring the canoe in and safely
so
set up.
Scouted in the kayaks because you're more nimble and you're not putting as much at
exactly.
risk. Yeah.
You can't go into a narrow bay in a boat, but you can in a kayak, and then you can jump off your kayak. You can swim. You can look at the bottom. You can check the waves out, the current. hey, I can bring my canoe into this little crack, and I can moor it in here safely. So we did that. Then then canoe sailing took off in Hawaii. Chris Hemeter, who was a wealthy developer, built a hotel on Kauai, and he sponsored a race called the Molokai. And so I got a good friend of mine, Cappy Sheely, who's an excellent sailor, almost went to the Olympics. And we introduced competitive sailing to the canoe world. And most of the canoe guys weren't sailors, they were just paddlers. And so we created a really light craft. And on the first race that we did, it was the second race of the series, but we won $10,000 prize money.
Whoa.
And then
Awesome.
every one after that, for the next 5 years, we won all 5 of them. And after that, Hemeter stopped sponsoring it. And we continued to do it for about 18 years. And we felt, it's not like, it wasn't so much the competition that we liked. We liked honing our skills for when we went on trips with our family. So when you race in those conditions with an escort boat, you can test your equipment. And if something fails, you know that okay, I have protection. Somebody's got me back up. So we learned how to get our boats dry, keep them waterproof. We learned how to get them light, strong, and we had a lot of things break on us during the racing season. But then when we got into the cruising, we still had some issues, but mainly we solved them and we got our skills up in doing that. About the same time, I started getting into marathon swimming, and I always felt that the marathon swimming would help protect my crew when I'm on these long voyages. In case if we get in trouble, I know I can be in the water of assistance for 10 hours, 12 hours. I mean, one of my crossings, I was in the water for 19 hours swimming. So I felt, I always wanted to be in
Which
top.
one was that?
That was going from the Alinui Haha channel, from the Big Island to Maui, which was my final crossing. But I always knew that I was ready, and I wanted to be ready, and I'd always train my swimming to be sure that when I'm doing the water stuff, I can handle whatever kind of situation comes up and be helpful. And the Hawaiians were like that too. They were great swimmers. When they capsized their canoe in the deep water, it was no big deal for them. They just swim ashore. And so then around that same time, the marathon swimming came up, and I hooked up with a really sweet gal, Linda Kaiser, to do swims with, because she was a marathon swimmer also. She asked me for her help. Says, "Hey, Mike, I want to swim to Molokai. From Maui, can you help set up an escort?" And I said, I can, and I can join you too. Let's do it together. And so we swam that channel together. And it's a tricky channel.
Isn't that one of the more dangerous channels? Volatile?
It's very volatile. They call it the pai lolo. Pai is clap or slap, and lolo is kind of crazy. So you get, it slaps you crazy. Pai lolo, and it has a lot of current, a lot of wind, waves in it, and so we got about 2/3 through the channel, and all of a sudden she grabs me, and we look down there, and there's a big shark. And
tiger shark?
It wasn't a tiger shark. It was a big, I think it was a bronze whaler. And so it came up very slowly, looked at us, checked us out, circled. Meantime, this sailboat was escorting us. And, it's a 6-hour escort. So those guys just went brain dead. They weren't, we were just kind of going along, and they weren't paying attention. So they just were talking and having lunch or something. And so they were about, a mile past us before they decided, hey, where are those guys? And we were stopped in the water, trying to, scare off the shark by holding arms and making big body and keeping our eyes on the shark. And anyway, it disappeared into the deep water. And then
You're wearing a mask and snorkel?
No, just goggles.
Just
the
swim
swimming
goggles.
we do is goggles and
just like you'd swim
Speedo.
laps in a pool. Yeah. Most efficient as possible.
That's all you get. And you can't touch the boat, and you get fed from the boat, but you can't touch the boat. So we came ashore, and this place called Honamuni, and this guy Hal Fuji was on the beach, swimming with his kids, and we made good friends with Hal Fuji from that moment on. We were buddies. And then we would keep going back there with our sailing canoe. After that, we met Hal. So we'd go in the channel and we'd go park at his place. And we did many trips there. And another thing, when we did our sailing canoes, we would find good camping spots. And we'd build an ahu, like a stone structure. And we had two reasons for doing that. One, we wanted to signify a place that was safe to camp and safe for a canoe to come into. And secondly, we wanted to do something that would possibly prevent somebody from disturbing the area, thinking it's an ancient Hawaiian monument, which can't be disturbed. So we put these things up. We put one up at Halape. We put one up Kiholo. We put one up at Honamuni, and they're all still there.
Still there, I would imagine. Yeah.
We put one up in a place that I'm not going to mention, and it got taken down, by the owners of the property. They weren't too happy with us doing that. But Hawaii is one of the most. I having grown up here, to me, it's the magical place on earth. It has, I travel a lot all over the world, and I come back and I'm going, I'm so lucky to live here and be part of this aina here and part of this community. And the ocean resource is phenomenal. It's not crowded. It's like when I was saying that we would do these trips, the waters are tricky. Not everybody has the sort of the knowledge to be able to safely move around in the Hawaiian Islands and know the topography. And
you guys kind of pioneered that for yourselves. Did you have many old-timers you could lean on for information?
Yeah. We're always seeking information, from the young brothers, barge captains, what's going on with the current or, local knowledge. But basically, we had to create our own roadmap, ourselves, because nobody's doing what we're doing. Nobody, somebody in Hana can tell you every little square inch of the 2 miles that he knows, but 2.5 miles he has no idea. It's just like it's as far as they go. And not everybody had the resources or the interest or the passion to find out about the Hawaiian shoreline. So we had this driving passion, and what was cool about it is that the people that are in our sort of our tribe, the people that were in Lauren's age and Nicole's age, my kids, they love to do these adventures, because you can't take, we do multi-generation trips. You got to have the young guys to help muscle, to paddle hard, and there's and you want to share the knowledge with them as well, and the experience. And I would say about 90% of the kids that we took on these trips, they absolutely adored it. You can talk to any one of the 50 kids that we took, and they would tell you, that was the most fun I've had in my whole life. What are the kids doing nowadays? They're playing video games. They're doing stuff that's not, integrated.
Yeah.
Not integrated with the environment. So this, we would, we go jump on the canoe and go and sail. And I remember one of the Kaleo Padilla, one of my kid friends that would come on a lot of trips, he would say, Uncle Mike, we like it when there's, stuff goes wrong and we got to fix it. We like the excitement of, being close to the fire, So we had lots of those situations. And, my grandson, I remember we sailed over to Molokai, and it was just on the fringe of a hurricane. But we knew the weather pattern, but still, the mother of one of the gals that was on the trip, we weren't able. She didn't want to call her and tell her what was going on because she was afraid the mother would freak out. But the conditions were kind of ideal. One trip that was kind of fun. I got so many stories. I'm gonna just.
I could listen to them all.
I got to hit you a couple highlights, but one trip that was kind of fun. We went around Molokai, and if you do that in Hawaii, we have northeast trades. So you go down the north coast and sail, and it's like you're cowboying down there, and then you come up, and then you got to grind back up, paddle back up. So we had from La'au Point, up to Kanakakai. We had to, paddle up. And so we go super early in the morning.
How big is the sailing canoe?
It's 44 feet.
Whoa.
So it's got a sail, 6-man. It has a trampoline. It has a ama for flotation and a safety ama. And it's basically the same.
The ama's an outrigger?
Outrigger.
Yep.
It's the same configuration that we were doing the racing in, but we detuned it for the voyages. And we put a smaller sail on it. And
is it wooden?
Yeah. It was made out of, we got jungle wood and made the
Made
sail.
it yourself?
Yeah. Well, the sail cloth we had made, but the rest of the parts, we got from the jungle, using hollow wood and stuff. And
oh man.
So, we were coming back and I know Nicole was with us and, a few other of our friends, but, we would take not only multi-generational, but we take gals and guys because I have daughters. And so, I'm not prejudiced.
They're as badass as any man out there.
We want to have a mixed crew, and these girls wouldn't have it any other way. So we had a mixed crew, and Nicole was on the boat, and there was this. So we got our way up to Honamuni, and we were parked there, and we got up super early in the morning, and this super windstorm came through the channel. And it was one of those things that would just blow like hell for 4 hours, and then there was a hole after it. There's not too much wind after it. But when there was a canoe race that same day that went around Kahakuloa from Kahului, and one of the escort boats went down. They lost 2 canoes. When this storm came through, it just lashed. It was like 40, 50 knots. So we had tucked into this little bay called Puko'o. And, it's like a private bay, and the guy was telling us, oh, you can't park here. I said, oh, yeah, there's a big storm outside. We're parking there no matter what. So we went in, we had time to kill. So we went to the store. There's a little store there, and we were short on money. And this lady says, what do you guys want? And it was so cool. She bought us all these local mocos, and we needed the fuel to get across the channel. And I'll never forget, it was such an act of generosity that, we wanted to find out how we could, pay her back or pay it forward. We're still paying it forward now. So we got back to the boat, and one of the kids wanted my wetsuit in case we went down. Yeah, you can have my wetsuit, and it was Nicole's birthday. And so we had to get back for her birthday. Now, normally we would have probably just waited another day, let all the sea settle down. But we paddled out, and we put our big sail up. We had 2 sails. We have a more of a light wind sail and a big wind sail. So we put our big wind sail up, and we paddle out the channel, and there was like these 12 to 14 foot big ocean seas that had built up from all this wind. And,
just rolling, or were they
just rolling? They weren't breaking. They weren't breaking. They were just rolling, but they were huge. And, our eyes were big, and so. Were
y'all quartering, or what was the direction?
Yeah, we were going broad reach.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, we realized, hey, we're not moving that fast because the wind had died down so much. It had gone from 50, now it's down to 12 to 14. So in the middle of the channel, we changed sails. We put our bigger sail up, and we got her to her birthday party. And it was like, she was like 14 or 13. A birthday party is a big deal. But it was very cool that, we kind of had the free lunch experience. We had the storm go through. We had all this devastation, and we threaded the needle and came in and got Nicole to the birthday party. I have another short story for you. Again, we were going around Kaho'olawe, which is our island here, and it's a beautiful island. And
that's the uninhabited island.
Uninhabited
right?
island. The military, is just off limits for quite a bit of the year, but. We started off in Wailea, and we sailed out, and then we started sailing around the island. And we started going, once we kind of turned the corner, we got into quartering reach, and so we really started picking up speed. And there's these really nice swells. And so we were sailing at the perfect angle, catching these 12-foot rollers. And we came down one of the waves, and we broached a little bit, and we didn't shift our weight out to the ama fast enough, and we did this. We kind of got squirrely a little bit. The wind tipped us over, And so here we are in an area that you have no cell coverage, and you're, on the backside of the island. And I got Nicole on there, and, I got, Sandy Parker and Mike Giblin. I got a bunch of friends on there. Really good water people. Everybody's an excellent water person. So we know exactly what to do. We spin the canoe around. We put the ama in the wind. We lift it up. Everything comes back over. The sail comes up. And then we grab on and jump in. And this, as soon as it comes back over, the sail's, going to start drawing again. And
full of water, I imagine, huh?
Not really, because we have a canvas on it. So it didn't fill up with water. It had maybe a fourth of water. So, because when it turns over, it's air pocket in there. And then when you get it back over, so Nicole missed the bus. So she's back there. We're starting to pull away. So Nicole grabs the fishing line, and we reel her in. And so we get her in.
Because you were trolling for dinner, essentially?
Yeah, and then on the line is a mahi-mahi. So we bring her in, and we bring the line in, and there's a mahi-mahi on there. And we roll into this bay.
2 for 1 there.
Yeah, we roll into this bay, and we, we kind of take, we get everything dry, get everything organized, stow the fish. And, I tell you, it's something that happens that you have to address the issue and survive through it. And it doesn't go without, adrenaline and fear and concern and all of that. But, you just have to suck it up and get, look at all your options and figure out what you have to do to survive in that particular situation and make the best of what you got. And so, we're talking about attitude, and, we have so much negative news, when in almost any organization or any nonprofit or schools, or, there's all this negative stuff you're dealing with. You're not dealing with what's right about the world. You're not dealing with what's wonderful about the school. You're dealing about the issues that cause, that cause irritation. And so you're putting all your resources into that. But I like, DeWitt Jones's attitude. He's a friend of ours. Celebrate what's right about the world. Celebrate what's right about your life. And so,
That's great advice.
Yeah. So,
you can always find something positive.
Yeah. And live that day as best you can, like it's your last day. And that's kind of our philosophy. We try to have fun.
Is that the Aloha spirit?
Yeah.
That you talk so much about?
Yeah. The Aloha spirit is really being non-judgmental and looking at everyone as if they're your equal or your superior, not inferior to you. Just being non-prejudiced, being totally open to everybody's magic. And, I'm just going to digress on a non-water, but, I was reading something about the Pope. He was talking about, people that are panhandling. And I, always had problems dealing with the panhandlers. And I remember one time we were in New Mexico, and a drunk Indian came up to us. Lord and I were walking back from Mexican food. And she was, I don't know, 10. She had her...
Santa Fe or somewhere?
Yeah. So she had $1. She had $1 that was like her whole net worth. She had it in her pocket. She'd somehow earned this $1. And I don't know, she was, I don't know, 10, she could be 8 or 10. And this Mexican guy comes up and he goes, "Hey, you got any money? I got to get milk for my baby." And Lauren, she didn't hesitate. It took her, one quick draw. She pulled that $1 out so fast and gave it to the guy. And I was in that attitude, like, screw this guy. He's just going to go buy beer and that. And so getting back to what I read about the Pope, he said, when you meet a panhandler, this is, what should you do? That was the question to him. And he says, give generously, and do it with humility and, compassion. Touch them, look them in the eye, touch them, give it to them, and don't judge how they're going to use the money. And so ever since then, I carry some pocket change around, and I'm finding, when I see those situations, in Hawaii, we don't have a lot of that. But I know that when we were in Africa, there was a lady that was on the side of the road, and, I pulled out some money to give to her, and I felt good about it. But it was all part about that. But
isn't that great that Lauren had that in her instinctually?
Yeah, right. No, but she hasn't lost it.
You did a good job.
She's still just like that now. She's super generous, and they call that Kokua, helpful, without any expectation of anything in return. We so often give stuff and we expect some kind of what's in it for me, I'm going to give, like we have a political race now, in Maui. And so we know a lot of the candidates,
For the mayor, right?
The mayor, we got all state house, all these races. And so, if you're a big corporation and you give the candidate money, there's strings attached to that gift. You want when that guy gets in, you want to have access. You want to be, I have a favor to ask of you. And so that's how the game is played.
Pushing your agenda.
Yeah. But Kokua is you do stuff, you don't care if they thank you or not. I mean, like if Lauren was asking me the other day, if I helped somebody, I co-signed a loan for somebody, 30 years ago. And, I had complete faith in the guy. But when you do something like that, you just do it, you're not expecting him to give you any kind of favors back. You just do it. Hey, I'm going to do it. I feel good about it. Or, so that's something that is not well practiced in today's world, Kokua. Somebody calls you up and said, my car broke down. Can you help me, come pick me up, or tow me, or, bring me a battery, or, how many friends do you have, JT, that you can call in the middle of the night and they'll come and help you get unstuck? Or do you have, I'm sure, you're a special dude. I bet I get enough to get you out of
I've got a couple people I'd call. One of them is here with us right
here
now.
Yeah, I can see that. Scotty, I'm going to be calling you up sometime. I want access to elk hunting.
But we've all got that shell built around us these days. Like
it's
it
scary.
hurts too much to care, and so you turn it off. And then where are we in that situation?
Yeah, I like to think that it's risky to not have the shell, but I think that you have a much richer life without the shell. If you can, and that's what you're getting back to aloha. That's when you give love, you care, you think about people. Like I have a Hawaiian friend on the Big Island, Robbie Hine. We're really close. We hunt together, went to high school together, and he was telling me, he says, Mike, we cry. We wear our heart on our sleeves. We have emotion, that's how we are.
Speaking about you and him.
Yeah. When we're talking, and some people aren't like that, like we did a scholarship for a group of us, put up some money to do a scholarship for schools around Hawaii that have Hawaiians in them. And we did one for the Waianae High School. And so we called some people on Oahu that have connections, and they all contributed, and we do, it's about $5,000, and the male and female gets it. And so we do it without, all anonymously. We just, it happens. The school gives the award, they pick the person, and we just fund it. So they sent us this letter, essay that one of the girls wrote. And I read this letter and I started bawling. This gal says, Brittany Alameda was born on August 23rd at 7:57 in the morning, a crack baby. And she goes on to talk about her experience in this world of not being wanted and being cast around, and her mother being a drug addict, and how she was then put with a family that had 5 other kids as a relative, and they adopted her. And she said in this essay, she says, we were at a party once, and some of the kids around there said, hey, who's Brittany? And the son that was one of the biological kids said, oh, that's our sister, Brittany. And she felt she was part of this family, and she felt rescued. And now she wants to go and do medical. She wants to help people out. Oh. But I mean, it's just stuff like that, just makes you feel good. And when some of my friends read that essay, they wrote checks. She got extra money. You know, that Waianae they split it amongst 3 kids, you know, and they got extra money because of that.
This is good for me to hear, because I have to admit, I kind of turned my senses off to some of that stuff. And when I was a kid, I remember my dad would come and pick me up in Houston. My folks were separated. And by the time we would get back to Austin in this old Oldsmobile he had, we'd have like 5 or 6 hitchhikers in the car.
Oh, cool.
And I'd get bumped from the front seat to the back and eventually sandwiched between another 3 or 4 guys back there. And I don't know, I always found...
Were they blacks?
Especially
were any of them blacks?
It didn't matter.
Oh, that's cool.
I mean, it was white, black, Mexican, you name it. Stinky as hell, drunk. But so was my dad, so they fit right in, right? But and through college, I remember, especially as a bartender and going off of tip money and just always having cash. On the way out to my car after a night of working in the bars, I would pass some dollar bills out. And my old man was always like that. And as I struggled in life to try to get to a certain level or place, I kind of, there's so many homeless people in Austin now, I just figure I can't help all these people. And so I just stopped looking. We all know the feeling. You pull up to a light and someone's walking past you with a cardboard sign and you pretend like you're looking at your phone or change the radio station, anything not to make eye contact with that unfortunate human being. And right before I came out here, I'd been gone from home for about a month, and I had my 6-year-old in the back seat, and we were going to spend the day together. I hadn't seen him in a while. And he pointed over to a guy that was sitting on the curb with his dog. And I just had a couple bucks in my console. And so I passed it back to him and I said, whistle him over. And so my son rolled his window down and goes, hey, and waved the dollar bill out of the window. And this guy came over and took the money, and he really kind of knelt down and looked in my son's eyes and he said, thank you so much, you know. And I could see my son glowing in that moment, that feeling that he helped somebody, and now talking to you and getting that inspiration again. It's what we got to do. We got to help each other out in this world.
I think that, you know, more of that the better. And so like at this stage of my life, I'm trying to think, well, maybe there's things that I can do that's not money oriented to make money that can be helpful, you know. And I think the taking these kids on these experiences, on these trips, was helpful in giving them character and giving them sort of a love of life, a passion for life, you know, that they can see how beautiful the Hawaiian Islands are. And, you know, I was mentioning Kurt Matsumoto. You know, he's the head of Lanai, the Pulama Lanai. And I sat on a Trust for Public Land advisory board with him. And I'm walking with him and I say, you know, Kurt, it just occurred to me, you know, we do these Kukui Malabalama scholarships, you know, and we got Hana, we got Molokai, we got Waianae, and we got a school on Kauai that's Nihao kids, you know. How about, would you guys like to sponsor this for the Lanai High School kids? And he didn't hesitate 1 second. Yeah, we'll do it. You know, I mean, he's spending Larry's money, but still yet, you know, he's responsible for whatever kickback comes back, you know. Yeah. And so they funded it, and you know, they got some great kids that are gonna, you know, our whole thing was to fund kids that are average. We're not looking for the superstar. We're looking for the one that's in the middle. Waianae, they have a lot of homeless there. So we told the administration, we would like you to target homeless parents, kids from parents that are homeless, to put them into this program. And so the superstars kind of get all kind of grants and scholarships, but the ones that we want to target is the ones that aren't going to go. They can't afford to go. They even never thought of going. And all of a sudden, okay, here's a year's tuition at community college. Try it out. See what happens. See if you can, you know, find a niche for yourself. So that was cool that Kurt would not hesitate. And then, you know, all my homies that I call and ask, hey, you want to, you know, help out for Molokai? No, nobody ever said no. They all go, yeah, we'll do it. You know, tell us when, tell us where.
What are the different characteristics of the different islands and places throughout Hawaii that you've been talking about?
Well, let's start at Nihao. Nihao is it's a privately owned island. It has people that speak native language, and they used to have jobs there, but there's not a lot of jobs there. But they choose to live there. They're under the jurisdiction of the owners of the island, and they have great compassion for their island, and they're super fishermen, and they're very, very connected.
Preserving their traditional life.
They don't have a lot of rain. They're dependent upon, bringing in water and stuff. But it's called kind of the sacred island. It's, very few people get to go there. Kauai is our, oldest island besides Nihao, but it's an old island. So it's very beautiful. The way it's, stratified, and it's, kind of worn off. It's small. It's a little bigger than Molokai, but it's the smallest other side besides Nihao. It has,
Kauai is smaller than Lanai?
It is bigger than Lanai.
Okay.
So it's smaller than, it's bigger than Lanai and Molokai, but then it's smaller than Oahu and the rest of the islands.
Gotcha.
But it only has a road that goes 2/3 the way around. So everything is kind of concentrated in between, like Kekaha and Hanalei, so it's got a lot of traffic. It's got about 78,000. It has plantation background. So you have a immigrant population there, and you have a lot of sort of new transplants that have come there for a lot of surfers have gone there and moved on to the North Shore. Housing is expensive. There's very little unemployment, and they're struggling with how to manage their traffic and their development. And so there's very strong feelings about how the island grows, and they're trying to figure out how they do the low cost housing with, slowing down the more expensive housing. So they're struggling with that, but they got Derek Kawakami, they got a new mayor that's fantastic that will give them good guidance. And then, Oahu is more like a international city. It's got almost a million people, lots of concentration in Honolulu, Kaka'ako, Waikiki. It's a breadbasket, generates a lot of revenue for the state in tourism. It caters more to the budget, budget tourist and tour groups. A lot of Asian tourists like to go there. They've had a real estate boom in building high-priced condos. That's about to run out. I think that game is just about up. But they also.
And you're from Oahu, correct?
Yeah, I'm from Oahu. They have a major issue that they're struggling with. They pushed through a rail project, which always sounds good and nice when on the drawing boards, and they pushed it through at about $6 million, and it looks like it's going to run at $9 million. So they had to increase the tax, a regressive gross excise tax on all purchases and all sales of 0.5%, which hurts the poor people. So they had to push that thing through, and then the price keeps escalating, and so it's big political battle on that. The unions like it, and they have a lot of political influence, and so they have that issue. But it's a great place to go to, and lots of entertainment and things to do there, and
great restaurants.
The best thing they got going though is South Swell. They got a lot of they have the South Swell comes straight in there, so it's got great surf all along the South Shore. And the North Shore's got some of the best surf in the world. Pipeline, Sunset, Haleiwa.
If you're burly enough to get out in that.
Yeah. So it's got phenomenal surf. It's got good surf on both sides of the island. So it has a large population that comes in seasonally just to surf the big waves on the North Shore. And then Molokai is like a very it doesn't have any jobs. I mean, high unemployment, lots of native Hawaiians living there. They're they're activists. They don't like development. They don't like outsiders coming in, and they almost are imposing a bad economy on themselves to prevent growth, and it's to the detriment of the graduating seniors because they can't find work there. It's almost the attitude is, okay, well, you leave the island, you come back someday in the future, and with your money, and you buy something and you can live here. But we don't want to spoil it, So they had some big battles. But Molokai has a lot of fish. It's got a lot of reef. If you want to go catch bonefish, that's the place to go. But they don't come over there and try and do anything commercial or come over there and take lots of fish out of there and sell it on the fish. Those guys, they don't like that. They're real activists on that. Maui, I live here. This is my island. It has a synergy of everything is accessible to the commercial economic core of the island within 45 minutes. Everybody can get here. So it's a very prosperous island. We have a lot of tourist infrastructure that's very successful. We have the highest room rates of any of the islands. We have the highest occupancy. We have we have an interesting, diverse population. We have Filipino migrant workers that were brought in for the sugar. We have part Hawaiians. We have Japanese that were also, immigrated in here, and we all get along. And we have good hospital. We got good arts and cultural center. We have tennis courts. We have soccer fields. We got 4 Olympic-sized pools that are free. You can swim them 7 days a week for free, and they're clean, and they're lifeguards. For this small a community to have that many pools.
Is that tax dollar?
Yeah, that's tax supported swimming pools, 4 of them, and we got basketball courts. We got parks. We're really dialed in well, but we have an infrastructure that's good for maybe 2000. So we have to catch up on our infrastructure, and we have to catch up on doing strategic acquisitions of future land to prevent as this community grows. Now's the time you got to plan for it. So I'm really hoping that the next administration, next 4, 5, 6, 10 years, that there'll be lots of interaction between the landowners and the government to acquire strategic parcels that will help the island grow in a manner that will make everybody joyful. Because, if you do the math on any of these communities that are popular, and we're a popular destination, we're like Aspen or Steamboat or Santa Barbara, there's pressure. People want to come in here. They want to, and they bring money. And so they start bidding up the prices of houses. And how do you deal with that? How do you provide workforce housing? So that's the challenge that's coming up for this new administration that's coming in. The Big Island, it's alive. The volcano has been streaming into the ocean at 23 miles an hour.
Have you gone to see that?
Huh? I went up and saw it. I went up, and Jill and I went up and looked at it in a helicopter. It's a river. It's 23 miles an hour. It's just flowing full blast, right? I mean, it looks like a trout stream, except you need a whitewater raft instead of your trout boat. And so that's created some fog issues. But the Big Island is bigger than all the islands combined. So, and it has, but it's just disjointed. Everybody, Hilo is like its own island, separated from Kona by 2 hours or 2.25 hours. Waimea is, 45 minutes from Kona, 45 minutes from Hilo. So you have Pauila's all by itself out there, 2 hours from any place. So it doesn't have the synergy that Maui has, but every island can fit into the Big Island. It's that big. So it's huge. It's got a beautiful, it's got volcanic peaks. And we, getting back to, adventures. I also love doing land adventures. And so my friend Pono Von Holt and I we'd do hikes every year. And we did a hike for his 60th birthday. And we went to the shoreline at Pololu, and we hiked up to the top of the mountain above there, Honokaa, on the top of the mountain there, Honokaa Peak, and walked down to the road by Hawaii Preparatory Academy in one day. So we did that hike. We summited that the North Kohala Mountains and came down to the beach, down to the road. The next day we started there and we walked up through the pipeline trail through Waimea, up along Mauna Kea slopes, camped about a third of the way up. And the next day we went to the summit of Mauna Kea, hiked all the way to the top. And we were hiking in places where people don't hike. There's an old aircraft that crashed up there and we saw the ruins. I mean, they know it's documented, but nobody sees it, And the next day we went to Mauna Loa, to the weather station. We hiked to the very summit of Mauna Loa and looked into the caldera and came back down. And that was our rest day, and it took us 8 hours. And then the next day we hiked down the Mauna Kea, Mauna Loa. We went down a third.
Were you guys camping this whole time?
No, we weren't camping. We were staying in houses till then. But then this next one, we followed the 1849 flow, and we had to camp. So we camped on the Pahoehoe lava, and got a third of the way down the Mauna Loa. And then the next day we did another third, got to the road, and went, showered off, had a sheet bed, and then came back and we hiked down to the ocean. So we went, did all these summits and came back and ended up in the ocean. Another hike I'll just mention, and I hope I'm not boring you.
Oh man,
but we did this.
Golden.
We went to Molokai, and Gaylord Wilcox and Adolf Helm. Adolf Helm was kind of our guide, and so we started at the shoreline again at Iliopai. There's a heiau there. And so we started in the afternoon and we walked until it got dark and we slept on the ground, and the next morning we got up first crack, in fact, with our flashlights, and we hiked all the way up to the summit of the rim that looks over at the north shore of Molokai. And we dropped over this edge into Wailau, the bottom of Wailau Valley. And then we crossed over the cable trail and we hiked all the way up to Pohakunohu, which separates Wailau from Pelikunu. And we slept up there on the ridge. And the next day we went down. We started hiking down into Pelikunu. There's no trail. So we just bushwhacked and we came to a place where there's kind of a cliff. So we went on the side and we found another place where you could kind of hold bushes, and we got down to the stream. And then to get from the stream to the shoreline, you can't follow the stream because there's waterfalls, but there was a Hawaiian trail, and I found the trail. It just revealed itself. It's just sort of like you look at the terrain and you say, well, what would be the topographical way to get out of here?
When you say Hawaiian trail, would that be an ancient trail?
Yeah, ancient trail.
Okay.
That the Hawaiians would get to the back of the valley. And they probably hiked out too back in those days. But if you can imagine, a couple hundred years ago, didn't have the vegetation. It was a lot of peely grass and native trees, and you didn't have all the clidemia and the stuff you have nowadays, guava. But it was cool. This trail went on the left side of the valley, and you could see it was indented. And we had to go under trees and branches and stuff. But so we worked our way down, and in the dark, we finally got down to the flat part of the valley, and we ended up in the stream, and we walked down the stream and got to the shoreline, set up our camp, and the next day popped out. We walked up the trail that goes along the cliff between Haupu. It's kind of Haupu trail, and we walked all the way up to the summit and got a ride and got out of there. But that's something that only, I think, one other person, Lauren Thurston, I think, did that hike. But if you try to do it today, there's so many weeds that have grown up in that area, especially this clidemia, that it would be difficult to pull that off. But
without bringing a machete or something, huh?
Well, even these things, the clidemia is a long cane, and it's tough. If you hit it with a machete,
you got a spike.
It's gonna bend.
Yeah,
it's gonna bend. I mean, you gotta kind of almost clip it, and it's just like so thick that you just have to, do this. But you gotta wear goggles. You gotta wear the chainsaw goggles that have the little stainless steel protectors.
Oh yeah.
Because they'll just hit you in the eye. So you gotta wear those, and then you're swimming. The pigs do great. The pigs go in there and they they root up for worms and looking for things under the Clydemia, and they make the ground soft, and then when it rains, that stuff runs into the river. So the pigs are a big problem in those valleys on the north shore of Molokai.
Do you hunt those pigs?
No, I don't hunt the pigs, but a lot of people do, and but you just can't keep up. I mean, just like any kind of feral animal like that, it's hard to keep up with the they just reproduce so quickly.
Yeah,
especially in that kind of environment. So you just it's hard to get access to the back there. So it's a huge challenge, and Nature Conservancy is trying to deal with it.
You left out one inhabited island in your description.
Lanai. I'm going to tell you about Lanai. So Lanai it's got an interesting history, but it has been a pineapple island. But they tried to do sugar was the big crop back in the day. They tried to do sugar, but there was this scammer or a gifter, Gibson. And he was over there, and he was trying to create some kind of a Mormon colony and trying to acquire the island, and he ended up being an advisor to Kalakaua. But then Stanford Dole came in and bought a majority of the island. Now the pieces that he didn't buy were like kuleanas that the Hawaiians had, like at Lopa and at Keamoku. There's the kuleanas, and there's some up in the village too. But it was primarily immigrant labor with plantation lunas or plantation managers in big houses, and they had camp housing. And so they, pineapple is a hard work. You're in the sun, they're pokey, you're breathing dust. They do a lot of chemicals. So, and it's a man and woman's job, but it's a hard job. And so Murdoch bought it. He did a leverage buyout, with Castle and Cook. He had a lot of stock, Castle and Cook stock. He was a very wealthy guy. So he raided Castle and Cook and ended up controlling it, doing a leverage buyout, and ended up with Lanai. And then he decided that he was going to, make it into a resort island. And so he put in the 2 hotels, the 2 golf courses, and he got, reams of kickback from the community and Goro Hokama, who was the council member for Lanai, Murdoch lied to him once, and he doesn't like that. From then on, it was like war. So the community fought him every inch of the way for any entitlements that he wanted to have. And so he finally threw in the towel and sold it, and that's where you have Ellison now. But when I talked to some of the Filipinos that are working in a hotel, I said, how do you like working in a hotel compared to the fields? He says, oh, way better. I mean, I talked to one of the gals that's working in the rooms, changing sheets. Oh, they love their job. Compared to being, out there in the fields, this was like
hands and knees.
Oh man,
picking
just the best thing that could happen to them.
Yeah.
So in spite of all of the negative stuff that you hear at the county level, at the entitlement level, the people of Lanai really benefited from that investment.
Have you been going over there your whole life?
I've been going over there a lot, but we would go over there with a canoe. On our trips around the island, we'd go in there and we'd bring the canoe into Hulapoi, because you can bring a canoe in there. And then we knew a lot of the locals.
Because it's a marine preserve.
The marine preserve. Yeah, you can paddle right in there and
no motorized vessels, but
but you can paddle in, push our canoe up on the beach, and then a lot of the locals we know, and they come down, and we would share our food with them. We usually we're fishermen, so we would have
awesome
fish.
Is that spot?
Yeah, we would cook up some fish for them and make raw fish, and they would bring down some kiawe wood. We bring down some chicken to burn, and what a beautiful place. And inevitably, when we're at Hulapoi, we swim at night. It's just that kind of a bay that it just welcomes you to swim at night. And I encourage you, JT, to swim at night there sometime. Take your kids down there and go for a night swim. It's magical, and it's it's sort of like you feel you feel all the excitement of what's out in the water, what's out there. And you're looking up at this moon and you're looking up at the stars and it's
So
the
many
water's
stars.
temperature, and then you come back and it's something that you put into your memory bank that you never forget, So that put that on your list to do.
Talking about swimming, you've swam every major channel from every island to island. What created that goal?
We've been talking about a lot of different things, but I'm gonna circle back to the shark story with Linda Kaiser swimming to Molokai.
Oh yeah.
And then she said, Mike, what's our next one? So these channels are like super big obstacles. So I said, okay, well let's do Kaho'olawi to Lanai. That's a long one. It's a 20 miles almost, and it's tricky in the currents. And so we did that one successfully. And I remember swimming that, and my goggles were leaking. And if you swim, you realize how important your goggles are in salt water. And so the thing was leaking, and I kept making them tighter. And finally, I took them off and I looked at them, and the rats had chewed a hole in the seal.
Little gasket.
So luckily, we had a spare pair, and then continued to swim and did it. But up until then, I was really struggling with that issue. And then we did.
How long did that one take you?
That one took us, I think, 8 hours or so. It was
continuous. You can't touch the boat, get in the boat.
Can't touch the boat. You get feedings every half an hour, but then we did. It might have been longer than that. Then we did. We did Maui to Kaho'olawi, and Linda's calling me up, Mike, the weather's really shitty, do you want to cancel? I said, no, just show up. And so she shows up. And the thing is, with that channel, the nastier the weather,
response,
the
right?
better. The nastier the weather, the better. Because you body surf to the island. It basically pushes you to the island.
The trades are pushing you there.
Yeah, pushing you there. So, man, it was rough. We got it done. And it was safely, and there's a lot of sharks around those waters, and we didn't see any, and we got it done in the daylight, and that was cool. And then the Molokai Channel, that was like, when I was growing up, it was like almost, the guy that first did it, he did it, maybe before I was born, but very few people had done it, and it's a long channel, and it's got a lot of current and wind, and it's just super long. You can't even see Molokai you can't even see Oahu from Molokai. But we picked a good day, and we're in about a third of the way, and everything's going good. And she swallows a jellyfish.
Oh my goodness!
And she starts getting palpitations and going into shock. But she didn't want us to stop swimming. She got out. She couldn't go any further. But she said, okay, you guys keep finishing. So when we got close to the shore, the current started pulling from right to left, and we were supposed to come in at Sandy Beach. We ended up coming in by Hanauma Bay, and over there, they call it China Wall, and the waves kind of wash up on the rocks, wash back down. But luckily, I picked Opihi enough so that I'm pretty good on the shoreline. So I just kind of washed up on the wave, put my my feet down on my hands, and the wave left me up there high and dry like a crab. And then that was the completion of the swim. Then the wave came back up again. I jumped in the white water and got washed back out, swam out to the boat. And I'll tell you the sense of satisfaction of doing that, because that was a big one. And then we did a relay from Oahu to Kauai. It's like 78 miles. It's more miles than humanly possible to swim with the amount of critters in the water. There's a lot of it just seems like north up there's more Portuguese man of war, and they're the enemy of a swimmer. Everybody thinks the shark is the enemy. It's not. Portuguese man of war is going to take you out. It's extremely toxic. So we swam that in a relay, and all of us except the guy that had heart trouble got stung badly. I had stings all up and down
raised
my arm,
whelps,
my chest.
right?
Huh?
Like raised whelps and blisters.
Oh yeah, huge. And but and then we saw a tiger shark on the way. My gal Linda Kaiser, she was swimming with us, and she saw a tiger shark, and she says, "Mike, what are we gonna do?" I said, "Okay, we're gonna keep swimming." So the next I pulled her out, and the next guy jumped in, and we kept going, and we took us 24 hours to do it, but it was cool. Talk about adventure. Those swimmers got off. My boys flew in, jumped on the boat, and we went to Nihao. I mean, we were on shore for 4 hours, got gas, got some food, and my boys flew in. We jumped on the boat, and we motored to Nihao, and we surfed for 2 days and dove and hung out there, and then we started our way back to Maui. But that was like, nonstop. Just the candle never stopped burning on that trip.
I've heard you say something that I think more men, more women, more people in general should say, which is, you set your mind to doing those swims, and you just, no matter what the circumstances, you were not going to give up. You weren't going to stop. And this is like I won't call it meaningless, but this is not life or death.
Yeah.
It's life or death because you chose to swim it, but the decision to go swim from island to island, this is the silly thing to do.
Yeah.
But once you decided to do that, to make that goal, you're the type of man who's not going to just get tired and say, "I'm out of here. This is silly."
Where
did you get that determination?
But I just want to footnote that, because the channel swimmers have a lot of false, they have a lot of failures. In our swimming, we never failed once except one time. Every swim we designed it for success. We picked the weather, we had the right escort, we had the right currents. We did everything humanly possible to make it a success. And I'm doing this as I'm aging. I'm at 60 years old or 65 years old when I did Molokai. But the channel from the Big Island, Upolu Point, to Maui is a long one, and it's a lot of current, and the wind goes sideways through there. It's like a broad reach going through there.
Right.
And that doesn't help you with swimming. It helps you sailing, but when you're swimming, it's not very good. So picked the perfect day, the perfect weather, and it was like flat calm. I waited for like a year till I found the exact conditions. I had a quarter moon, and I had it all planned. I was going to start at, 3 in the afternoon, and I'll be able to finish it, the next day in the light, come ashore. And I got about 10 miles offshore, and I got into a situation where I had these cuttlefish banging into me, because my escort boat was having trouble seeing me, so they turned the lights on. The lights attracted the fish. And then they asked, once the lights are on, they still can't see me very well, so they turn on the light they asked us to turn our safety light on the kayak that's escorting me. And so all of a sudden, I can feel something bump me. I had 3 or 4 bumps. And then all of a sudden I got whacked. I could feel something in my solar plexus really stinging, like a bite. And I thought, well, I wonder if there's a cuttlefish biting me. But I knew how to get out. Something nasty's in there. So my escort kayak is right there, one-man kayak. So I start climbing up on the kayak. I turn off the light first, because I knew the light was causing attraction. And then I start climbing up on the kayak, one-man kayak, and I'm pulling myself on. And I got hit in the leg with a cookiecutter shark in my calf. And it's a serious bite, not life-threatening, but... So I got on the kayak and we radioed the boat. We got aboard the swim.
Took a huge chunk out of your calf, about the size of a softball.
Yeah. A small softball, but a big 3-inch, circular thing. And so the boat came in and we rushed me back to Maui, and Jill came down and I laid down in the back of our station wagon. We had duct tape all over it. Went to the hospital. And fortunately, we had this really good plastic surgeon. He was there and cleaned it all out. And 6 months later, it was dry. But in order to heal it, we went and did like a 10-day hike in the John Muir Trail in the Sierras. because I knew I needed to get in the colder climate to help the infection go away, and I needed to rebuild the strength in the leg. And my wife and my grandson Hyena, the three of us did this long hike, and I was the only one that was concerned that, hey, maybe I'm not going to be able to handle it because this, my leg's so weak, but they didn't even, my wife and Hyena didn't even think about it. And I never mentioned my doubts, but sure enough, we just plodded along. We did a nice pace, and we set up camps, and the cool weather and was good for it. And I'd swim in the mountain streams, and that really helped cure it. And then a year and a half later, when I did that swim, the same thing you were saying, why are you doing this? My girls were saying, why don't do it? Why it's too risky? Why are you doing this? There's all these things can go wrong. And then, but I had made a commitment. When I got bit, I said to myself, this isn't going to be my last. I'm going to give it one more try. I'm not going to, I was ready to, I knew I was going to finish that channel. I felt strong. Everything was dialed in. And so I came back a year and a half later. And again, I caught the perfect weather. And it opened up at the last minute. So I called my homies, these two surfer friends of mine, Dage O'Connell and Kali Borner from Kipahulu. I said, hey, the weather's good. We're on for tomorrow. Can you guys come? Then I got this guy, Jeff Henderson, to run my boat. And so they jumped on, and we drove up in the night, and parked right at Upolu Point, and this time I wanted to go 3 a.m. so I could be past that place in the daylight. And I remember sitting on the gunnel of the boat, getting ready to jump in, and I had this 33 miles ahead of me. It's dark. And I had a second thought then. I says, this is really going to be a difficult challenge for me. Should I do this? I wasn't really saying should I do it, but I'm just saying this. I just measuring the gravity of the task. But as soon as I jumped in, and I felt the warm Pacific water, and I swam ashore, got out on the calm rocks, and started swimming, I felt like I'm back at home. I'm back in the groove, and it's doing something you would love to do. And you just get into this rhythm, and, it's nice swimming at night. You can see the stars. And then I get to the point where the cookie cutter got me 10 miles out, and an oceanic white tip comes up to check me out. Now, I don't know if you've ever heard of an oceanic white tip, but they're the shark that's responsible for eating more people than any other shark. There were 20 million of them before they started shark finning. And when these ships were going down in World War II and World War I, Liberty ships and stuff, and you'd have 1,000 guys in the
those
water.
Awful stories, right?
Yeah, that's the shark that was eating these guys. And they're not...
What size are they?
They get up to like 10 feet, 10, 12 feet, 10... I think 12 would be very rare, but they
plenty big.
You see a lot of them 6 to 8 to 10, but they have real long fins, and that's why the shark finning boats love to catch them. But they're they're untrustworthy, and they're opportunist. Like the tiger shark is like number one on the movie. Dun-da-da, everybody wants the tiger, the great white. The oceanic white tip is like, he's just like a garbage eater. He'll just, like in that situation, if I was just floating on with my life vest on and I wasn't looking in the water, I was just floating there with my legs down, he probably would have come up and taken a bite. He wouldn't have come racing in like a racehorse. He would just come in slowly and bump me, and then just kind of turn sideways and just grab part of my leg, twisted a chunk off, and then he'd come back and he'd take another chunk off, until he was full. That's how they operate. They're just, but this one, I kept my eye on him. And a shark, if you look at a shark, they're much more nervous about coming in. If they see that you're watching them, they're going to keep their distance, even a tiger shark. So I kept my distance, and I told the crew on the boat, I said, hey, I got an oceanic white tip, and so I just stopped. And for about 5 minutes, we just stayed, and he did his dance, and he came in close, and he went back, and I was ready to jump out, but I knew as soon as I touched the boat, my swim was disqualified, And so then he disappeared, and I continued to swim, and then it started getting darker as I got closer to the island, because it took me 19 and a quarter hours, and I got bumped by something 5 miles off the shore, and I don't know what it was, but it scared the shit out of me, because I don't want to get hit by a cookie cutter. That's my, I don't want to do that. So I skipped my feeding and I picked my pace up, and I just wanted to get it finished.
Get through that damn spot.
I just got in as quick as I could, and came into the bay and got up on the shoreline. It was such a wonderful feeling to finish that, and that was the last of the channels. I swam all the channels, and the channel to Nihao, we were the first to swim that. The channel to Lanai, to Kaho'olawi to Lanai, we were the first to swim that. And I think most of the other channels had been swum before, but we did two first swims. And the Nihao one was pretty cool, because when we got to the shore, we saw marlin on the way. And marlin are, they're the king of the sea. Nobody messes with marlin. They have that bill for a reason, and they attack lures because they're very aggressive. But we got close to shore. We were able to. I had an ulua kind of show me the channel to get in to Ke'e Beach. So we kind of followed him through a deep channel, and got in through the surf break, and it got deeper, and then right up on the beach, and we lay down on the beach for a while, and then back out to the boat. And we had a local captain do it, and it was very satisfying to do that.
So cool, man. You talk about bringing your canoe up onto the beach and having these meals with the locals, and just to give perspective, it's hairy out there in these waters, and even bringing a canoe to shore, you got to time it between the waves and all that stuff. I mean, it's a walk in the park for you, but for most folks, there's a lot of learning that make it capable.
There's no walks in the park when you're in the ocean.
Yeah,
everything is, you got to be aware. You got to be totally focused and sober and clear thinking, and you can't let there's so many things that can go wrong. You can't have any things go wrong that you can prevent.
Right.
So your gear has to be really strong. You these guys were doing a canoe race a month ago, and the lashings broke, and their flotation thing peeled off, in the middle of the channel. You can't have that kind of stuff go wrong if you don't have an escort boat. Even if you have an escort boat, it creates problems. But I'll just tell you a brief story. We did a trip from Big Island all the way to Kauai. And
how many miles is that?
It's close to 300, So we stopped at all the islands, and then we took some breaks. But for the summer, we did this whole trip, and we ended up on Anahola, and we had a couple Hawaiian guys. This guy Kimokeo Kapahu Lehua, and a couple other guys that knew people on the island, had relatives. So we came into Anahola, which is a really nice Hawaiian community, and so the family of this guy that was on the boat and his friends, they all came down, and we had fish, and we shared the fish, and we had a nice meal, and we met this guy Liko Martin and a friend of his, and his friend is the relative of Kapahu Lehua. And so the guy was 70 years old. I said, do you want to come with us? Because he's the ocean guy. He said, yeah, let go. I want to go with you guys. I said, okay, we'll be down here at 5 tomorrow morning. And don't bring too much stuff. So he comes with a small little bag, and he's down there at like 4:45, ready, with his trunks on. And even though he was old, he never missed one stroke. He might have been 76. He was totally part of our protection unit, and we had one extra guy. And the guy Liko Martin, who's a famous musician, he jumped on, and we sailed him down to Ke'e, and then we switched crews, and we took him to Kalalau, and then so we anchored at Kalalau, and he'd never been into Kalalau, this old guy. So he jumped in the water, and then I finned him in with my fins, pushed him in, I said, hey, don't, because it's a shore break over there. I said, don't get up on, just crawl up, like a bug seal. And he kind of crawled up onto the beach, and then we just celebrated being there. And then this gal came out, a friend of ours came out. She happened to be there, and we was talking with her, and she's a hula dancer. So she danced the hula moon, Hanalei moon, for us on the beach, topless, which was the way it should be done. But before we did that, when we were in Blackpot, before we left, Liko Martin, who's a famous musician, he wrote a lot of activist songs. He was going to ride. He was riding with us for those 2 legs. He brought his guitar down and a steel, and they played music and till late at night, smoking joints and drinking beers and eating the raw fish, and it was an amazing night. And this Japanese guy was sitting at the bench there, and I started talking to him, and our canoe was right there, and we're just so stoked having completed this journey to this point. We still got another 3 days to go, and he says, "Oh, Spalding, is Lauren your daughter?" And this is Lauren was, I don't know, she was 18. She was going to do her first one-man crossing. And he said, I've been watching Lauren. I've been watching her times. I'm following, because he follows her. And he says, I think she's going to win the solo this year.
For the Molokai?
The Molokai. And she never paddled before. And the gal that she's competing with, Kelly Faye, has won it 7 times. She's got the record. She's won it like 5 times on a kayak. So she's like the bomb. She's what Lauren is now. She was Lauren back then. And here's this gal, 18. She's never done it. And I had a lot of faith in Lauren because, she's a determined lady. But I'd never dreamed that she would be considered by somebody to be the front runner. She's an underdog. So, I went on the escort boat and she started the race. And, when she paddles, when she does one of these distance races, she never stops paddling. She doesn't stop and rest. Her dad stops and rests about every 5 minutes. I'll rest for 5 seconds, or I'll stop paddling. She paddles nonstop for 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, whatever the thing is, nonstop. I mean, she might get a little rest if she's flying down the face of a wave, but other than that, she's on it. And so she ran scared. She didn't know where the competition was. She didn't know where Kelly Faye was. She thought Kelly was in front. So she just paddled her heart out the whole way. And she ended up beating Kelly Faye by 15 minutes.
Whoa.
Yeah. And
awesome.
So that was the beginning of her not losing any of these races.
She's such a badass chick.
And then all the races she would go to, she'd go to these races in Honolulu, and they would say, well, have you ever, raced in Honolulu before? And no, I haven't, so you have to race the short course. You can't, well, I want to do this long course. No, you can't, you're not qualified. So you go and win the short course, come back. Oh, can I race the long course? So finally say, yeah, okay, you can race the long course. And she'd win that. And then she would win everything she would enter in, she would win. And that's when they recognize her as a talent for kayaking. So, we have a fairly strong kayaking program, and athletes from our program go up to the Olympic Training Center. And so they said, hey, why don't you try kayaking? So she tried it. She started practicing with the team for about 6-8 months, almost a year. And then she went up for the Olympic trials. And this is a year before the Olympics, the Olympics in Athens. And so now the girls that are up there that are in the training program, they've been groomed for 5 to 8 years, to be, this is their Olympics. They started them in the Olympic training program and all the races and whatnot. And they only have about 5 races a year. So Lauren goes up there, and it's a qualifying race. So she goes up there and she doesn't know anybody. Nobody knows her. And they take the top 10. They go into this qualifying. So, and everybody, she's telling me, she says, Daddy, these girls, they race 5 races a year. I do like 15 races a year. I'm on the starting line. I'm calm. I'm breathing. I'm visualizing the race. These gals are puking and they're freaked out, because it's like, and so she ended up, I think she got, 3rd or 4th out of the 10 places. And so she made the Olympic team.
Was that in K1?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's K1. That's how they race in the K1.
Yeah.
And so she
But
made
had she ridden K1 before? Or
yeah.
she just,
Yeah. No. She was practicing K1 in at the Alawai with the kayak canoe, the Hawaii Canoe and Kayak Club. So she knew what she was doing. But she got a really good start. She did she did the race, and she made the training team, and then she would go fly back and forth, and she still would do the Molokai race. She'd come back and she'd say, I'm taking this week off because I'm gonna go race in the Molokai. She'd come over here and win it in the kayak. She set the record in the kayak and in the canoe. So
do you think that determination came from the adventures you guys took when she was young?
No.
It's just
she owns it.
Personality.
She owns it. I mean, I couldn't take credit for that because, I mean, Nicole, I put her through a lot of crazy stuff, and she's a normal human. Lauren's she's got a
tell us about some of that crazy stuff.
She's got resting heart rate of 40, and she's a warrior. But she's a kind warrior. Some people, they win at all costs and they don't take prisoners. She always congratulates people that if she beats them or loses, she always up there, being nice and congratulating them and honoring them. Or when they interview her, she's very humble. She never takes it for granted, who she is. She's very low key. She's always giving credit to the other competitors. And I always test her out. I said, hey, you're going to win the race, who's your competition? And she'd say, everybody's my competition. They're all competition.
Taking nothing for granted.
Yeah, taking nothing for granted. Everybody out there, can do it,
You were putting those girls in that canoe and crossing island to island when they were tiny, right?
Well, the story that red canoe is that I took her and I took the Lindbergh family, friends of mine. I was telling you about the church out in Kipahulu. So their son's a friend of mine and his wife. I took them in that canoe with Lauren. So Lauren's really light, so she's bailing. And
how old was she?
She must have been about 5. She wasn't paddling then. So we get about 3 miles off Lanai, and then the north wind kind of comes in. There's a lee, and all of a sudden the wind comes in on the shoreline.
This is an open ocean crossing.
Yeah,
with your
open ocean
5-year-old
channel.
daughter.
Yeah.
In a canoe.
Yeah, and so then we swamp. We have the sail up and we're doing good, but then all of a sudden a wave kind of fills us up. So we start bailing it out. And I remember these guys, we didn't have the YETI bags in. All we had was in the garbage bag. And, they don't work for shit. So the thing, they're bailing it out, and all of a sudden you can see the camera falls out. It's got the reflex camera falls out in the water, and she knew that was treacherous. So then she's, okay, I got to get so I gave her a job. I said, hold the paddles. So I'm jumping out of the canoe. I'm bailing the thing out, and we get the thing bailed out, jump in, we go ashore. We set up camp at Club Lanai, and we walk down the beach. We find the church. And as a gift for our safe passage, I decided to restore the church. I said, hey, I'm getting chicken skin thinking about it. I said, the Kokua, the spirits saved their ass today. This is going to be my gift back.
That's amazing.
It wasn't hard. So I tell I call my friends up. Hey, let's do this project. All in. Everybody's in. So we got about 5 guys, and we start. And as I mentioned too, I went over to to get permission. I went and talked to the Lanai guys that were running the place, and they said, hey, do whatever you want, but check with Saul. And whatever you need. And so we need about 3,000. I could have said 25,000. They would have given it to me. And then I asked Alberta DeJetley, hey, can you give us some money? She's over there, and all my friends, all my tribe, you got $50, $100, and we bought materials. Every year we'd go buy materials and ship them over there and work on it. And it was so satisfying. And we'd go over there and we would we only work half day. We play half day. That's how everybody's motivated. But you start first light and you quit at lunchtime, you can get a hell of a lot done. But we're not there working till dark. We're not on a commercial project. We're on a fun project. And it was, cool. We had an architect that would come with us, and we had just a variety of people, but only
to
a
give
few.
everyone perspective,
Yeah.
I found that church. It's a long way down the Kiyomoko Road, and it's a beautiful old wooden church. It's just like a church you'd see in a little Western movie or in a small town, Texas. 100-year-old church, badly dilapidated.
Yeah.
And then you guys did that restoration. I saw it for the first time 3 years ago, exploring that road to the old Club Lanai, which is just some huts on the beach on the reef side of the island. It gets very little traffic. It's very difficult to get through. You need a 4-wheel drive. A lot of times that road is extremely pitted. If it rained at all, you're getting stuck down there.
I want to tell you one last story.
And to finish that really quick, I showed Scott the other day, 2 days ago. It was his
Did he
first
get the
time
feeling? Did he get the mana?
He saw the church, and up until we spoke to you, we had no idea that you had done that restoration. Now we're sitting in your living room talking about it. It's so cool.
I'm going to give you a closing story.
All right.
Now this I get the shakes when I tell the story, because this is a real story. Nicole and I did these trips in Fiji. We sent a Hawaiian canoe down there, and we set it to Lakemba by barge, and we went over there with our gear, and we did 3 summer trips. They were 2-3 weeks each, and we would sail and we would paddle and we'd fish, we'd dive in the Lao group. And on the 3rd trip, we decided that we're going to move the canoe back to Suva and give it to a canoe club there, because we had kind of explored all the islands in that area. And so Nicole's 16, so we are having to do a 30-mile crossing and a 50-mile crossing. So we did the 30. We got to the island, and we have to go 50, and we got weathered in for about 5 days. And finally, the weather starts to change, and I think the islanders are ready to get rid of us. You like Captain Cook, you overstay your welcome. So they say, oh yeah, the weather's good, you guys go. But it was squally. Wave, the wind would come up, then it would die. It would go 10, and then it would go 15 to 20, and then it would die, and pretty good sized swell. So we're had the GPS, radio doesn't work. There's no safety net. Nobody knows we're there. So we start off on this journey in the morning, 6 of us, and we're paddling, and then we put the sail up, and then the ama is our flotation device is on the port side, which was the lee side of the boat, but it's kind of getting pressured from the side chop of the waves, and it'd been 3 years in the sun, brittle, hollow, very light, and it had these risers on it. And so about 7 miles off the island we had to go to, and the front part starts to crack. And then before we know it, it's cracked loose. So the guy, Rufus Kimura, was with us. He jumps in, he has a bungee cord, and then meantime, the back cracks and it breaks off. So we don't, our main flotation is detached. So I jump in, and I'm holding it, and I'm holding the thing, and waves are crashing on us, and I have to get the rope undone. And if you try and undo rope in rough seas like that, it's very difficult. And untangle it, and finally I get the thing.
Total mayhem.
Yeah, total mayhem. Just like compounded errors. Yeah. So I finally get the kind of rope, ready, and I tie a bowline around it, then I start to lash it on, sideways, and I'm just hoping it's not leaking, because one pinhole will fill it up and then you don't have your flotation. So we finally got the thing lashed on, and we had a little motor, and by this time of the trip, it was, only running at about 1/4 speed, because it had so much salt in the carburetor, the jets and everything. And, we take the sail down to put less pressure on the rig. And so we're throwing our dive weights over, anything that we could lighten the canoe, we're getting rid of, And I don't know if you ever had a feeling where you're going to lose one of your kids, but you don't want to have that feeling. But it's like this, I'll tell you, it's like the worst feeling in the whole world. Your whole gut, everything is just tighten up, and you're pumping with adrenaline, and it's like you're just you express it in your eyes and your feeling, your face, everything else. So I'm in that state, I might lose my whole crew. And Nicole, she's up in the front, and she turns around and she looks at me, and you haven't met her yet, but she's got a beautiful smile. She smiles at me, and she points her finger at me, says, Daddy, when we get back to Maui, you owe me a truck. And everybody just cracks up, let's get her truck, And so
How old was she?
She was like 16.
16, ready for a vehicle.
Yeah. So we paddle in.
Oh, Mike.
So we get in, and there's like 6-8 foot surf all along the reef. We know there's a passage. We don't know exactly where it is. We finally, we run down the reef and we see this place where it's almost closing out, but there's a little bit of a channel. And we find the channel, thank God. And we squeak in. We get to this village. And everybody comes out, remote village, and they all come and check us out. And somebody adopts us and takes us to their house. And then, fortunately, we had extra supplies, so we gave them supplies and we cooked up our food. And Nicole pulls me over that night. She pulls me over, and she says, Daddy, he says, if we're ever going down, we're going to go down laughing. We're going to go down smiling. We're not going to go down crying. And for a 16-year-old to tell me that, she was so far advanced on the reality of life. And that's, you live in the moment, you live in the day that you have. And if you're going to go down, wouldn't it be terrible to go down with that gut feeling, or go down, hey, we tried our hardest, we had a good life, we did our best, hey, so be it, But I really,
that's tremendous courage for anyone.
I love that story.
Yeah.
And so one time she's telling me, she's in college, she's going, hey, she's having boyfriend problems. She calls me up and she's crying on the phone. And I say, Nicole, remember the time in Fiji when we almost went down? Is this as bad as that? And she stops sniffling, No way, this is minor. I can handle this, So, if you, she's very popular, so is Lauren. But I think a lot of their character and their moxie comes from having been exposed to
those experiences,
a lot of interesting things that you don't find.
Did Eddie Vedder show that kind of courage when he almost drowned falling out of your boat?
Eddie Vedder. Eddie, when we had the Eddie Vedder experience, you heard the story.
Yes, sir,
anyway,
I did.
Briefly, we took Eddie Vedder and we had a couple of greenhorns on the boat that hadn't been on the boat before. And ever since then, we never took anybody that hadn't got some experience and knowledge, and because it's not like you can't just take people out that don't know anything. But we ended up flipping over, same thing as we had on Lanai. On Kaho'olawe, and then we got the boat back up, and not everybody got on. So the two gals and Eddie missed the get up, and so I had three of us were on the boat to paddle it back. But one of the guys had a heart surgery about a month before, so we didn't have any paddle power. It was blowing like hell. So we finally, Eddie Vedder, had the paddles and he had these girls, and very close call for them. But fortunately, Keith Baxter, my friend, and Ashley, his daughter, actually spotted them. They came and rescued them, got us, towed the canoe up to Honamuni, where we have that place where we landed. And then, Eddie Vedder, he's a wine drinker, huh? So he went home, got wine and got his guitar, and we had a concert and we celebrated that night. And, everybody kind of drifted off to sleep. It's just me and Eddie at the fire. And he gets up and he hugs me. He says, Mike, I'll go with you anywhere.
There's no kind of living like almost dying.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But he was sincere. He said, hey, we're, and to this day, anytime there's anything going on with Eddie Vedder and I'm around, we're glue.
Last bit of advice.
Yep.
For people who haven't lived a life of high adventure like you've done, what's your advice to them to push themselves and to feel comfortable and gain confidence and do things that they feel is outside of their ability?
I would say this, that, it's like surfing. You when you're at a point in the wave where you can either chicken out or go, and if you go, you might wipe out. I think when you're in that moment of decision, I would say do it. If you don't hesitate, push yourself, if you're just thinking, oh, should I do that, trip to Nepal with, these people I don't know that well, or should I pick up that hitchhiker? You have that question, or should I do that donation? Or I would say, if you're hesitating, jump in with all enthusiasm, with all your power that you have. Just jump in, do it, and no better explanation is if you talk to a surfer and you talk to Shane or any of these guys, and they're paddling into a 50-foot wave, and there's that moment of decision. Do I just give it 5 more strokes and possibly die, or do I just pull out I can pull out right now? And those guys, all those guys, Healy and them, they believe in that. They don't hesitate. They go.
Right.
It's like they say, Eddie would go.
Well, I hope you'll invite me on a trip sometime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you're in the neighborhood.
I'm a decent paddler.
You're in the neighborhood.
And I won't give up on you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us to your place.
Hey, thank you for
spending
it's an
time
honor
with us,
to be able to share these stories with whoever's listening, and don't forget.
We need more men in the world like you, sir.
Yeah.
Thanks a bunch.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Have your best day ever.
Thanks again for listening to Drifting, presented by YETI and hosted by me, JT Van Zandt. To listen to more episodes, visit yeti.com or search Drifting on iTunes.